Welcome to the Voodoo Breakdown by Gorgon City. This is an amazing track and requested in the comments. And when I kind of run out of new tracks to do, I'll kind of look backwards at the greatest in the past and we'll break them down. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create what I call a hook and lift map, or I also call it a macro map. But the basic idea is we're going to map out the entire track. I'm going to try to keep it high level and stay focused on the most important things in the track, which is how does the hooks and groove develop over time. So what I mean by that is how do the hooks, like vocals and sound design, what are they? When do they come in? How do they evolve? You know, and then with the groove too, like what's the groove is the drums and bass. So how does that story evolve at the same time? And if you understand those kind of two high-level stories, the hook story and the groove story, you're going to have a really a much easier time, I should say, arranging your own tracks. And of course, another purpose of going through this exercise, which I recommend doing for yourself with your own favorite tracks, is just extracting just principles, like things that come across in every single track. Like I'm looking at this right now, and this is immediately what I call an HD2 formula. We'll break that down. But then also other principles and then other unique things about this track that maybe make it special. And then we can kind of extract those things and use them and put them in our own music and arrangements so that when our tracks get played in the club, or if someone's listening to our music, or if we're listening to our music, it tells the right story, right? It builds tension, it releases tension in the right ways, it creates the right moments, and it just has a really good flow from start to finish. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down. We're going to try to extract those principles and little secrets and takeaways we can use in our own music. Let's dive in. I'm excited about this one. I love this track. Here we go. All right, so right away, we're just going to get beats. And again, we're going to keep this high level. So beats are just going to be basically the drums. So let's just create an 8-bar MIDI clip here. Now, one thing that you could do in an intro and is, especially if you're like tech house producers, but really house, bass house, minimal, all these things, like the intro is really for DJs. So just make it easy for them to work your track into their sets. But at the same time, you can introduce something unique, right? There could be a little something, a little character in the intro even that kind of suggests what the track is or just differentiates it in some way. And so this track has that little kind of musical atmosphere in the background, like, oh no. A little bit of strings, a little bit of music atmosphere. All right, so we're going to do music atmos for now. This might change because if that becomes a bigger thing as the track develops, then we will label that more precisely. But for now, we'll just call it the music atmosphere unique. There we go. Just kind of listening to what's being used in the drums. The thing that kind of stands out to me the most is just the use of the rim shot for the clap. And I really like the reverb on it. Like everything here is just kind of creating a vibe. Also the kind of rough texture of the drums. It's just kind of a cool sound so far. You can hear that the music atmosphere is kind of creeping, I'm going to just say gaining up, right? So you can hear those sounds kind of getting a little bit louder. So back here, softer here, they're getting louder. You know, this is the intro again, not the biggest deal in the world, but it is moving forward in some way. So this is a technique that they're going to be using a lot in the track, which isn't some kind of like abrupt high-pass filter that you hear a lot. You know, tech house is my main genre, so that's the norm, is when you just turn on a high-pass. But in this case, this song is a lot more flowy, a lot more house-influenced, a lot more, evolving. And so you can even hear right here, right away, we're getting some differences. And this is like slowly evolving high pass. You can literally watch the low end go away in the kick in a gradual way. See that? it's not an abrupt high pass. It's an automated high pass. All right, and so kind of keep track of that. So we'll do an edit map. An edit for me is just like at the end of 8 bars. For example, you'll have like a little edit, which could be removing the low end in some way, like high passing, or removing a kick, or whatever. It just allows you to anticipate a next section or create a little bit of change or excitement going into the next section. Just allows you to reset sometimes. And so we're going to call this high pass up, just like that. Very simple. All right, we're going to create a lasers channel because there's a lot of lasers in this track. So here we go, starting right there. All right, very cool. And then we're going to get the bass. And we just got a nice little 16th note bass line. Cool. Another thing we'll do is we'll start to keep track of the sections up top. So let's go here, and then this is just going to be what I call and what everyone calls the intro. And maybe one spot where I will differ is I consider the next section. It is certainly part of the intro, but my name for it is the bass drop, because this is where you're introducing the bass. Another important thing is like this right here is kind of the groove character now. Like now that you got the drums and the bass, that for me, that's my specific use of the term groove is drums and bass. Of course, groove could be used in other ways, but the way I'm using it right now is just specifically meaning the drums and the bass. And this is the groove character right here for the most part. Like it might develop a little bit, but this is the first time we're getting the full groove kind of. And then we're going to introduce the hook character over here, and then they come together over there. All right, so kind of getting ahead of ourselves in terms of arrangement, but let's go. So this is just a 16th note bass line. Now we're getting some vocal atmos. So let's do Vox Atmos here. Cool. So there's going to be just delay right here. Man, Ableton, come on. And then we'll just color that differently. Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. And then moving on, probably repeat that. Duplicate. But the one thing I want to point out, and I'm not 100% on this, but definitely what's going to happen, I think, so I guess not definitely, but this is going to be a little flat right here, but then when we get into here, the bass line is going to move a little bit more with the chords. So the melody, in other words, is going to be flat here because we don't need a lot of movement yet. Over here, the chords are going to come in. So we'll see. I'm going to pay close attention to that, but I think in the outro too, we can see if the melody of the bass line stays a little bit flatter, right? Because then it makes it easier to kind of work into a different track, right? If you have a moving bass line right here, that just might not work very well with the previous track. But if you high pass it and keep the bass, but if DJ has a high pass and you're keeping the bass steady on a note, then it makes it a lot easier to work in. It just has that movement up there, like so. So is that a B? That is, if that's a B, it's a very strange key to write in. That's a difficult key to write in. Yeah, it's a B. Okay. The reason why it's difficult, because even when we look in the spectrum analyzer, come back over here. Like, look at this kick. This kick is at 55 hertz. So the kick is basically an A. The bass is playing a B at 61. That's kind of high. Like, of course, it doesn't matter because this track is awesome. It kills it in the club. It raced up the charts. And so all these things aren't necessarily things you need to worry about. But like, in like a tech house track, for example, usually you'd see something a little bit around closer to 50, a little bit below 50, and just a little bit more power, a little bit more weight. But you got to realize this track doesn't really need that kind of power or weight, So let's keep going. Let's just draw this out here. Let's go to B, and I'm looking up at the top right. I can see I'm on 16th notes. So let's do this. Whoops. Oh my God, come on. There you go. And where does that note change? Let's see. So that's just going up to the minor third there from B to D. You know? All right, so these guys are still kind of coming up, right? Yeah. Okay, let's get some effects here. We'll do the 3 that we always create, which is going to be effects up, effects down, and effects accent. And so let's recolor these. And so right here, when we get into the bass drop, we're going to get like I'm going to call this an effects down. It's just a white noise down. It's actually 2 of them. You've got a wide one, and then you have one that's a little bit more resonant down the middle. I actually really like that idea. Okay, anyway. One thing to quickly notice is even to just draw your attention to very simple sequencing. Sequencing is just simply how sounds are presented, not prevented, how sounds are presented over time. And the key is to present like a very simple, organized, but exciting experience for the listener as they move from sound to sound. And so look at the layout of this, all right? So as soon as we get into the bass drop, this is the first time we're getting the bass line. And then boom, then we're hit with the vocal. That vocal delays out, and at the bottom of that delay, we get a lift up in the bass. You see that? It's a very simple sequence. Bass, vocal, delay, lift, jump in the bass, and then that resets. All right, just want to show you that because sequencing is very important. We might be able to dive in, although maybe not into this track because it's using what I call star hook. I'm making no sense right now, so we're going to keep going. But it'll make sense later, I promise. Also getting a little bit of a fill there too, you know? It just adds to the resetting for the next 4 bars. Okay. So I just want to see if they were doing anything differently here at the 8-bar mark rather than the 4-bar mark. And they're not. They're just keeping it going. But we are going to get another one of these kind of down effects right here just to accent or kind of punctuate the start of the next 8 bars here. Now, if you can hear, it's so faint, but you can hear a new vocal coming in. Oh, man. I don't even know what to call this yet, but so I'm going to call this high melody. So you can hear it going dun, 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 dun. There it is again. You hear that? Cool. And again, with the sequencing, look at where this is playing. All right, so check this out. Bass comes in. First time I heard the bass. And then we get hit with this vocal. All right, the Atmos. Get the delay. Get the bass jump and the fill. Oh, you know what? I forgot about that fill. Let's get the fill in there. Can't forget about fill. All right, so we got the fill. So there we go. And we're just going to go backwards a little bit, see where that fill happens. Okay. Okay, so it's just playing every 4 bars. Let's go. Let's just see, is there any difference in it? Little bit different there. Maybe I'll just color this a different color. Just a little bit of a switch up. Almost like this weird trip into the drop right there. Same with this guy. Same with this guy. Look at that. Interesting. Almost like falling away where the fill doesn't complete. Okay, but what I was getting to is then here we have the bass plus the fill. That repeats, but when we get into the second 8 bars of the bass drop here, and we could just kind of split this in half, and we'll do bass drop A, and we'll do bass drop B. This is where we're starting to get more vocal. All right, and so this is like, I'm going to do A equals mostly groove, right? We're just introducing the groove. Here we're starting to get more vocal. But again, notice the sequencing. Where is that vocal coming in? Boom, right here, right? We heard the bass line, we get it, cool. But now we can start to fill that gap with vocals. So we're getting this vocal, then this vocal, delay, fill, this vocal, then that vocal, delay, fill. All right, check it. All right, and here we have a nice edit. So this is slightly different than before. This is an abrupt high pass comes in. High pass, I'm just going to do a high pass, all right? So before, this was like a gradual thing. This is not a gradual thing. It's not even a high pass, just no kick. The kick goes away. No kick. All right, cool. Now, here's what's really important about this. Is, again, anytime you have an edit, you are preparing the listener for a change. So what I'm anticipating is this is going to be a section that's going to be considerably different than before, right? Something is going to happen here. And the reason why I know that, and you know that too, even if you aren't conscious of it, just from listening to music so much, you are expecting something to happen here. And when that thing comes in, it feels right. You're like, it's a development. You're like, yes, you're stepping up and it just feels good, right? But that coming in there is motivated. This sound coming in, and it will come in. I'm going to show you in a second, but this sound coming in here is motivated ultimately by removing the kick and telling the listener, hey, there's going to be a change. Get ready. It's preparing the listener for a change. If that wasn't here, this just wouldn't have the same impact. And we can even test that. So for example, if I got this guy, we can feel how that would feel different. It's not going to be anticipated, the change. So, okay, we're going to look at that. Second thing I want to do is back up real quick and talk about something very simple, because I like how simple this is in terms of sequencing. But the key idea for me here is just intentionality, right? Probably the biggest difference between like an up-and-coming producer and like a professional at the top of the game is the level of intention behind what they're doing. And so, for example, if you just even look at the placement of these, like even this first one right here, the bass comes in, we're going to get this atmosphere. It doesn't come in here, right? Because then you're hitting them with the bass and the vocal at the same time. But give a little bit of pause, a little bit of room to breathe to digest the bass, hit them with the vocal. Okay, that delays out. And then we're getting a little bit of a lift in the bass, that little jump up, a little bit of fill, that resets for the next 8 bars. But, you know, as you make more music, you know that's enough. Right? Because then you just hit them with the same pattern. And that's the key, is just creating a very simple pattern, a very simple sequencing of the sound. And then when we get over here into the B section, we're lifting a little bit, but what are we lifting with? Well, we're lifting with the vocal, but that vocal's filling the gaps in where the hook pattern over here is. The hook pattern is just simply going to be this vocal, the delay, and then the fill, and then I would say the bass jump, right? Those are things that the listener latches onto and feels, right? And then here, we're just lifting with this, but this is all intentional, is the point that I'm trying to get. It's intentional, and it's simple, right? And that's what I want to say, all right? So just think about that. Like, think about the sequencing. Don't go crazy. Don't get things stepping on each other. It's very easy to get things stepping on each other because you take sounds for granted. You forget them, or you can forget them. A lot of producers forget them. I don't want to single you, the viewer, out. You know, maybe you're a genius at this. Who knows? But a lot of producers can put sounds in the way of each other simply because they forget about the sounds. They take them for granted. It moves to the background of their mind, and they're trying to overstuff the track. But the really good way to overcome that, let me just give you one quick thing, and then we'll move on. A really good way to overcome that is if you come to the main channel and you just drop a utility plugin, you turn it down to -20, throw it into mono, it is impossible to let yourself forget things. because now you're really just taking a completely different perspective, more of a listener's perspective. You're crushing everything into the same spot. And it's very easy to hear the sequencing of what you're doing and if things are stopping on each other. So check it out. Watch. All right, I'm going to undo the -20 because that might be a little bit annoying on YouTube. So I'm going to just keep it mono, and maybe we'll turn it down a little bit. Maybe we'll go to -6. Here we go. Check it out. Oh, you thought I was going to let you hear that next sound, didn't you? Wrong. All right, we're going to move into that though. But I just wanted to show you that. Notice how faint this is too. One other tiny thing I'm noticing is the bass is just barely opening here. Barely opening. Okay, but now we're back to normal, and now I'm going to let you hear this next sound. All right, so again, we're moving towards something. Let's listen to what it is. The music, right? The development. Okay, cool. So there we go. So this is going to be bass drop, and I'm going to put this as bass drop C. Technically, if I was going to be really precise about this, I would call this the bass drop extended, because usually a bass drop is about 16 bars, and then if a producer goes beyond that 16 bars, I call that the extension. And the question is, the key question for when a producer extends the bass drop is, why are you extending it? What's the justification? And in this case, it's introducing the music. So they're gonna introduce the music, settle things down into only the music, and then introduce the vocal. And so they're kind of bringing the music in before they drop completely and only into the music. And so that's what's going on here. So this is going to be intro. I say music, like the musical elements, right? The non-vocal musical stuff. So we'll just say like pads. There's some other things going on, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Let's just call it music. I don't want to go too deep into that because I want to keep a high level, right? We don't have to go all the way down into the forest, into the trees, into the cells of the trees, into the mitochondria of the trees, right? We can stay zoomed out and get a lot of insights. Here we go. All right, so we're going to put this on its own, we'll call this chords, and there we go. Cool, so. And I guess just for fun, I'm going to try to avoid doing this too much in this track because I really want to go into this, but again, this is an arrangement exercise. But just to do a little bit of figuring out, and just to show you a little bit. So if we just kind of loop around this. Okay, another way we can look, I'm trying to see what the notes are basically, but if we look. Okay, so right here, this is Vision 4X, by the way. Really cool spectrogram, I really like this thing. But if we look here, the way that this works is on the right-hand side, you can see that this is the frequencies. So from low frequencies up to high frequencies. Going from left to right here is the time. And then the brightness is the volume. So this is a three-dimensional kind of view of the audio, which is really cool. But what we're seeing here is if I press play again, then when I hover over this is a frequency. So this is one of the notes of the chords. This is one of the notes of the chords. This is and this is. And so we can kind of see what the notes are. So if I pause right here, we've got on the bottom, you can see C3, it says, or B2. And then this one is going to be F sharp. So B to F sharp is a fifth. Here we have another B. And then here we have another F sharp. And so is there no third? So B to F sharp is a fifth, right? But I'm curious if there's a if there's a D in there, because a D would be make it a minor B, a B minor. All right, what we could do is hop over to here though. So if we look right here, it's the same thing. So over here we have a B. So here we have the fifth, probably F sharp. Here we have another B. So right here, yes, we get a D. Okay, cool. See, I told you that had to be in there. And then up here we got an F sharp, so that's a fifth. And then up here we got a B. All right, and so that would be a B sharp, for example. So we could do. Okay, so let's go, and I'll just name these. So we have B minor. There we go. Cool. And then what's the next chord? Let's loop around this guy. So if we look in here, man, a little bit harder with the, let's see if it changes. Okay, it does. So let's see. So here we have this, we have D. We have A, so D to A, that is immediately a D chord. In the context of B minor, that's going to be a D major. Because B minor and D major are what are called relative keys, meaning that B major and D minor, the keys of both, have the exact same notes. So we're just moving to the relative major, in other words. So we should have an F sharp somewhere in here. A little bit hard to see there. I'm going to just do one last thing over here. So you can see here's probably the D. Okay, that's the A, so D is going to be down here. So there's the D. A. I'm just looking for the flat one. So here we go. Here's a D again. Here was probably an A. Yep. And there's got to be like an F sharp buried in there somewhere. Anyway, all right, so cool. So we've got D major. So just showing you how to kind of find this. Does require a little bit of music theory, right? Because you have to know like what chords belong or what notes belong to what chords. And I don't even, so for example, if you're going to ask me what is D major, I'd have to actually think about it. But I know that the fifth of D is A, right? And I know that if it's a D major, we're going to have a major third rather than a minor third. And so I'd have to think about it. But like I know that a minor third for D would be F. And so F sharp would be the major third. You know, so it's not like I have all this stuff memorized, but I know the intervals, for example. I know what a fifth would be, and I know a third, and so that helps you in terms of figuring out what the chords are. Because if I see a B and an F sharp, that instantly tells you that's a fifth relationship, right? B to F sharp is a fifth. That very strongly indicates that you have some kind of B chord there, either major or minor. But if you can identify the fifth, then you've got pretty much what the chord is, and then you just have to identify again what's the third. Is it going to be a major third or a minor third? If it's a major third, then it's going to be a major chord. If it's a minor third, it's going to be a minor chord. And so in B minor, we saw that there's a D in there, and so that tells you instantly that it is a minor chord. All right. Cool, so let's figure this guy out, and then we'll keep on moving on. Now, you can, of course, figuring this out by the piano, and that's what I'm doing to my left, but for those who don't have a piano or don't feel confident messing around and hitting notes until you feel like you've got the right notes or chords, this is another way to do it, right? You can look at spectrum analyzers or spectrograms, and it will kind of show you what the frequencies are. And then if you just learn a little bit of music theory, just in terms of how to build chords, which is just 1, 3, 5, then you can figure this stuff out. It's not hard. You're literally watching me do it. So, although this one's a little harder to see, isn't it? Maybe what I'll do is I'll go to a section. I think they stay flat on this chord. There we go. They sure do. Okay, cool. So here we go. What is this? This is a D. Okay, this is a G. Okay, D and G. So D to G is what? That's technically, if D to A is a fifth, then what would D to G be? It would be a fourth. All right. But if I was then going to have, let me show you this. So, for example, if we go from, let me show you. If we're in, let's go to B minor here. So if we go to, let's see, okay, whatever. So if we go from B to F sharp, that's an interval of a fifth, okay. And then if we go to from D to A, that's an interval of a fifth. And then let me just see something really quick. If I go get operator, put this on here. Cool. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I stay in B minor here. I'm going to fold the scale. All right. So this is going to make it a lot easier to understand. So if I go from B to F sharp, that's an interval of a fifth, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. It's the fifth just means the interval of a fifth. So F sharp here is the fifth above B. It's the fifth note in the scale of B minor above B, or in other words, the fifth scale degree. So this is scale degree 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we hit D and go to A, same idea. If we take D to be number 1, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see A is the fifth above D. And so immediately, if you see D and A together, you're going to think that's some kind of D chord. Is it major or minor? That depends on the third. All right, that depends on the third. Okay, fine. And then finally, we also just saw a D to a G. All right. Now you can see if we take D as number 1, G is a fourth above, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. But check this out. If we started on G and went up to D, what is that interval, right? So if we started on G, that's 1. So we go 1, 2, 3. Wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And so the interval from G to D is a fifth. All right. So D is the fifth of G, in other words. And so based on everything that we talked about today, what chord is that? It's going to be some kind of G chord, right? Because that's what we're looking for. In every single case, we identified the fifth. The first one was going from B to F sharp. That's a fifth. That is some kind of B chord. I just had to figure out what the third is to figure out if it's major or minor. Then we saw D to A. That is some kind of D chord. All right. And then I just had to figure out, is it major or minor? And then finally, going from D to G, we saw that's a fourth, but the inverse of the fourth is a fifth. So if we go from G to D, we see that's a fifth. It's some kind of G chord. We just have to figure out if it's major or minor. All right. Now right here, GB, if we go up to the third here, so if we start on B and go up to F sharp, the third is going to be D. All right. Now that's immediately going to be minor, because a major would be like an E flat. Okay. And just to briefly cover this once, if we go to B here and we go up to F sharp, okay, that's a fifth. Okay. I just unscaled it because I want to show you the difference between major and minor. Now, if you identified the fifth, again, you have the chord for the most part. Like you're pretty safe in assuming this is a B chord. Okay. Now, all we need to know is the third. Okay. And so if we go +3, that's going to be a minor chord. That's a D. If we go +4, that's a major chord. Okay. You're going to have a D sharp or E flat, technically E flat. Okay. But that's true across the board. So if we go to D, right here, again, we saw D and we saw A, but is it major or minor? Well, if we go +3, that's going to be a minor chord. That's what it defines a minor third, is a +3 semitones, right? If we go +4, that defines a major third. Now this is a major chord. Okay. And then, so if we move back to, what's it called, the scale, if we fold the scale, you'll see that in D, if we stay within B minor, only the notes in B minor, right? then you can see the only note we have available to us to make a D chord would be D, A, and F sharp. And so is F sharp a major third or a minor third above D? It's a major third, right? Again, if I unscale this, you can see it's +4. And so this is a major chord, all right? And then if we go down to, let's move this down to G. Let's make this again. So I'm going to go to G, all right? We know we have a G. We know we have a D. Boom. We have some kind of G chord. What kind of G chord is it? All right, well, the only note we have available to us to make a G chord is the B, because we have 1, 3, 5, right? G would be 1, B would be 3, interval of a third, and D would be 5, interval of a fifth above G. And so here, what is this? Is this a major or minor chord? We have the G and the D, so we have the fifth, but what about the third? And so in this case, is that a major third or a minor third? All right, well, let's look. Is that +3 or +4? It's +4. It's a major third. If you had a G minor, you'd be right. Whoops, you'd be right there. You'd be a B flat, technically. All right, so G, B flat, D would be G minor. But G, B, D is major, okay? And so that's it. That's how you can figure this stuff out. Literally, if maybe rewatch this, but if you follow along with what I'm saying with being able to identify a fifth and then figure out what the third is, you can figure out what the chords are. Now, of course, sometimes tracks will use more sophisticated chords. But if you can find this kind of structure where you have a 1, a 3, and a 5, then that is going to be the chord. All right, cool. So let's go back. And right here, we have, which chord is it? It's going to be, it's going to be G major. So we'll just put a G for G major. There you go. And so we'll just go like this. We'll go all the way to the end like that. Cool. And then here we have a D major. So I'm going to actually just go like this real quick and just move this up to D major. All right. Now they're spreading the notes out for sure, but I'll just leave this in here. And so let's go down to B minor, and then we need to make sure that it is minor. But since we're stuck, we have the scale feature on, we can just freely move these around and it's going to be exactly right. So there you go. We got B minor, we've got D major, and we got G. There we go. So let's keep going. All right. Let's see if that changes, but that should be pretty good. And there you go. I put operator on there, but you can hear that that's already kind of close, right? So I'm going to go get pitch, and let's pop that guy up. There it is. That's what I was trying to find. Okay. Maybe let's spread this out a little bit. So let's just go like this. So I'm going to take this guy and pop him up. So this is a spread triad. So triad just means 3 notes, but I'm going to take the third and just pop it up an octave, just so it sounds a little less cluttered, a little less claustrophobic. But it's the same thing, right? You still get 1, you still get 5, you still get 3. The 3 is just an octave up, right? So now if we listen to these guys. Maybe we'll get some chorus on that, just for fun. Going too deep, that's okay. Cool, what does that sound like? So beautiful, all right? Okay, we'll turn that off and we'll just keep going. Here we go. Okay, so we've got these things continuing. Let's push those forward like that. We're gonna push the fills forward. Fill is moving forward. Okay, I just wanted to hear if the music was still in there. It sounds like it is. Okay, cool. Let me see. Okay. I'm just going to check one thing. My thought is this actually a G major or is it an E minor? So I'm just going to check really quick. An E minor 7. You can hear it almost has like this minor tonality to it, and that's what's making me second guess. And now, I should say that G minor and G major and E minor are basically the same thing. But it's just that, you know, if you take G major and you put an E under it, it's going to be an E minor 7. So they are they're basically the same set of notes, but it just has that minor ring to it. So I wonder if there's an E here. So here we have G. I'm not really seeing it, but is there any E anywhere? So here's the D. So there's the D again. So we're getting really just a lot of G's and D's. So maybe it's in I guess not. Okay, cool. Well, there we go. And if we play this again, you'll hear that this just is perfect, right? It will go an octave lower. Okay, cool. I could literally talk about that for days, but that's not why we're here. But I love that. Hopefully that was helpful. So you got to let me know in the comments. Let's move on. Okay, there we go. We're getting that kind of high pass up again, the kind of gradual HP up. So obviously you heard this go up. Let's just figure that out real quick. So So here we have E and then we have B. Okay, so that immediately, fifth, again, fifth. Okay, if we go over to the MIDI right here, and we go, and I'm going to pop this guy down an octave, and I'm just going to get rid of this. And again, this is a fifth right here. G to D is a fifth, so we just simply move this over to E. You're going to see that E to B, fifth, right? Immediately that tells you this is going to be what chord? An E chord, and all we have to do is figure out what the middle note is to make it a triad. However, we know that since we're in B minor, we're restricting our notes to the B minor, there's only one possible note that can complete the E minor chord, which is going to be G right here, okay? And so this is going to be what chord? Is this an E minor or an E major? Well, it's I'm going to show you. So what is this? Is that +3 or +4? It's +3, so minor third. Okay, so this is an E minor chord, all right? Now, if I just pop this guy up to D, this right here is an E minor 7. But you can see right there, G is built into E minor 7. You see that? In other words, you take G major, you put E below it, now you got an E minor 7, all right? But they are playing minor in this last chord right here. So let's go EM, and let's just make sure that we got that. Okay, cool. And then one last thing is let's just pop the third up, spread triad, to just an octave up. All right, cool. So all together, this is what we got. Okay, let's bring this guy maybe an octave down. All right, cool. There we go. So we'll move on, but that is a little music theory for you. So moving on. So now we're just getting into the chords here, which would have been, if you were thinking this, it would have been a lot easier to figure those out in that section. Yes, it would have been, but you know, what can you do? All right, cool. So we got a nice little accent effect there, which is basically just a clap bomb. So, and we've got, of course, lasers. So let's do clap bomb. And then we've got lasers right here. So like that. More lasers over here. Clap bomb's a little bit earlier, like right here. Right on that last clap, actually. Okay, so this is still going right here. Let's go. So this is kind of like softer right here. I'm going to do softer. And then this is speeding up, actually. So. Okay, cool. Let's just double check it for fun. So here we go. So we have a B, we have a B, we have an F sharp, we have a B sharp, B, sorry, not B sharp, B, and we have an F sharp. And then here's the, then here's the D right here. Here's an F sharp right here. So clearly we got B, F sharp, and D. So B, F sharp, 5th, D minor 3rd, B minor, period. All right, cool. So that's good. And then let's go to the next chord. Cool. Let's see what we got here. So we got D. It's kind of hard to see with all the vocals moving around, but we can try to figure out which notes are more static, right? So this guy right here, we got A, so D to A, D chord. Which one? We'll find out. So D. Right here is F sharp. So right away, D, A, that is a 5th, D to F sharp, major 3rd, D major immediately. Cool. All right, so that we got the D. And then here, let's see if this is the G or the E minor. This is going to be easier to see. Okay, so we've got G, we've got D, a 5th, immediately. G to D, 5th, done. Another G, probably another D. Oh, B, there we go. So there's the 3rd. So G, B, D, G major, done. All right, we got the D, G to D, that is the major. I'm sorry, that's the 5th. And we got the B, that is the 3rd. But here is a D, here is a G, here is a B. There you go, again. So this is just definitively G major. And then let's just check this last chord right here. So E, okay. And then here we have E again. B, so that's the 5th. And then here we have right here. That's probably the vocal. This is more of a stable tone right here. We have E. Cool. And so you can see, like, we've got E, B, and there's probably a G in there somewhere. But cool. Let's just try to find the G. Maybe it's just 5ths that they're playing on this last one. So, doesn't really matter though. So if we just take out the major note. So if we go up to E here. It's still technically going to be an E minor because that's going to be the chord in the scale, but they're just taking out that minor note. It's just, it seems like they're taking out the minor note. I don't see the third in there, but you could totally throw the third in there. Okay, cool. So that's nice. Let's keep moving on with the arrangement. All right, and now we're about to get the main vocal vox lead. Okay, cool. All right, and then if we just back up for a sec to where we are, this is going to be the break. So we'll just call this break, and then I'm going to color it the blue. And cool. So what do we have? We have the bass drop, and then we're starting to introduce the music. So one of my favorite transitions is using the atmosphere in a break as a transition. Now the chords right here, you can create, this is just pure atmosphere, right? It's also the bed for the vocal, and it's what's supporting the vocal, and at least harmonically, like in terms of harmony. But it's just atmosphere, right? And so what's going on here is they're using those chords as a preview of what's to come in the break, because they're pulling you towards the break. And so the drums come down and we just slide into the break right there with the chords. And so the extension, or the extended bass drop here, introduces the chords over the groove. The groove kind of goes away, and then we're just left with the chords. We're left with this awesome, really pretty bed and atmosphere, and then the vocals just come in and sit on top of that. So you can see the kind of staging of this, just to kind of move towards just introducing the vocals. Okay, cool. So we'll duplicate this, and then we're going to get into the vocal. Cool. And one of my favorite things that I really want to do myself is just consciously write a vocal that has a pickup melody. A pickup melody, and if you watch the last breakdown, which is Everybody Having Fun by Gorgon City and John Summit, you'll see that they're using a pickup melody in there strategically. And same here, like the exact same trick that they're doing to bring someone into the drop is exactly what's going on here in Voodoo as well. So is Everybody Having Fun? They have a pickup melody, and that pulls you into the drop. You're going to also see that in this track as well. But here we go. And again, a pickup melody is just a melody that begins before the beat. And so it just pulls you in. It has this gravity to just keep the momentum going forward. Cool. All right, so what do we have here? We have probably some of the most basic elements you could ever have in a song. You've got the vocal, which is the lead melody, the thing that people are paying attention to. You've got the supporting chords, and you have an underlying rhythm, right? This thing down here that's been playing throughout is rhythmic. So you've got a rhythm, you've got a lead melody, and you've got chords supporting that lead melody. Those are basically the three most fundamental elements you can have, especially in a track like this, where you have a vocal supported by chords, and then you have, obviously, the rhythm. So there you go. Back to me, I never felt a feeling like this before. Something just happened to me out of the ordinary, I can't ignore. Was it a spell put on me, some kind of voodoo? Cool, and now what are we doing? We're picking back up to go into the drop. So this is going to be drums. We're going to be like kind of filtering in. There you go. Okay, you can hear the vocal. We've got washing out. So we're building tension right here. The ways that you can build tension are rep, roll, rise, grow. You don't have to use all of them, but rep, hook repetition, roll, snare roll, kick roll, crash roll, rise would be like any kind of riser. So even opening a filter is a riser, anything that gives the feeling of going up, and then growing the space. So grow. This is growing the space right here. The drums coming up, filtering in, that's kind of a rise because the filter is opening up. Now these chords are going to be filtering up also, but from the bottom. So they're going to be kind of thinning out. Also a little bit of a rise. You can hear that. Just the tension that's created from thinning the track out, filtering up from the bottom, and the reverb. It's just, you just feel the tension. You could feel, and what is tension, right? Tension is that something is going to happen. You're building tension. You're creating anticipation in the listener's brain, right? The dopamine is building, and then boom, you just explode. You release all that into the drop. But check this out right here. This is what I want you to see. So right here is going to be the pickup. Cool. There you go. And so very similar move is in Is Everyone Having Fun? They're using a pickup melody to pull you into the drop. It's just a natural part of that melody, but the melody naturally has a pickup, and you can leverage that. You can use that to really just easily pull someone into the drop. And then, of course, there's the snare roll that I forgot. Nothing crazy, right? It's mostly low, it's mostly top end, right? So I'm just going to do mostly top, right? There's not even like the bottom of the snare. And then, of course, we got these lasers. Wee, 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 wee. All right, cool. So first drop, finally. Here we go. Okay, let's get into the bass drop. Or the first drop, hook drop 1. So we're going to come over here. We're going to go like this. Call this hook drop 1, because this is where we're finally putting the hooks over the groove. Like I mentioned earlier, here we're introducing the groove character. Here, introduce the vocal character. Now they're coming together for the first time over the drop. So you can see the groove character and the hook character are introduced separately or independently. And then that creates anticipation for them to come together. And that's what happens right here. All right, so let's go ahead. But here now you can see that the bass line is doing something different from before. It's following the chords. So this is going up to D probably. I think you're going down. They're not actually following the chords. I think it's going down to F sharp. Or G, let's see. Yeah, they're going down to G. So they are kind of loosely following the chords. Like the chords would actually be like, so here we would go down to G, down here, and let's get this B minor. Okay, and I'm gonna just put Serum on here, or I'll get operator because I'm gonna make this available to download. So if we come back over here, so they're like the chords before would go up to D there, but they're holding back on the D, hitting them with the D right here, and then dropping it down to the G, which is what the chords are doing. But I'm going to duplicate this, and then we got to switch it up over here because I think they go up to E. So let's see, pitch, MIDI effects, pitch, let's go minus, let's get a spectrum here, like that. Cool, let's go down. Nope, too low. Okay, cool. And let's change this to just a saw wave, because now that the instrument's here, I just have to create. I'm not going to recreate the bass. I'm just going to create like a saw wave. Okay, and then let's go up. I'm just change this so I can get the filter drive. Cool. And then let's see. Let's bring this down. And I'll give a little bit of envelope amount here. There you go. Cool. Close enough, right? Maybe a little less on the envelope. More on the decay. Okay, cool. So we got a basic kind of bass sound, but I know that they are... Ah, okay, then they keep it flat right there. Okay, cool. So then it's going to do this again, but I think then they go up to E right here. That's not E. There we go. So again, remember, they're going B minor, D major, G major, B minor, D major, and then E minor in the chords. And that's loosely what they're doing here in the bass line. So let's see. And then they're just barely opening it up, but if we... If I just pop this up an octave, it's going to sound stupid, but... Cool. And then, of course, what they're doing is just opening the cutoff kind of towards the end there. So if we just go like this, and there you go. What we could do is maybe... If I just get the intro here and move this over here, we can kind of hear our little bass. And we'll get like kickstart. There you go. The basics of it done in like 5 minutes, right? Like you can always spice up a bass, but there you go. All right. And just in case someone doesn't have kickstart, let's freeze this. Cool. And then what we'll do is we'll obviously keep going on here. So let's go. Cool. Let's get rid of this. All right. Now we of course have those stabs. So let's go get those stabs. And cool. You know what? I'm pretty sure there's like a remake of this on that Top Music Artist or whatever. So if anyone's interested, check that out, because I'm sure that they make a lot of this in here. But we're analyzing the why behind the arrangement. So this is just following the chords, or is following the chords. Or the bass, really. So this is going to be B. And then D. And then we're going down to G. It's going to be on the offbeat, I think. Ooh, okay, and then a bigger one right there. Okay, and then let's duplicate this, and then these guys are going to go up at the end. So, go down here. Ooh, and then we get some fanciness over here. Let's see. So then it's basically just, is it on the offbeat or the? I think it's kind of like this. That one's on the offbeat, and then this one's on the 16th right there. Dun dun. Okay, you can also hear like this piano coming in that I don't think I heard before. So let's get that in there. So I think that's hitting D early. I think it's playing it on the 16th too. Yeah, same thing. Wow, that's cool. That's interesting. That's it. Okay. I thought there was more to it, but that's really cool. Very simple. Okay. Sweet. Now, of course, we can't forget the main vocals. So let's bring this in. One thing I want to draw your attention to, too, is just think of the overall movement of the vocal. The vocal and the chords, and this isn't always the case, but I just want to point this out, is that they kind of move together. So the vocal in the first phrase is almost like this down, moving down. And then this one is moving up, okay? So, right, terrible singing there, but you could hear it's just generally moving down. And same with the bass line. And see, there's a little skip up, but generally is going down. And then this one, whatever, that one's going up over here. Same with this. You see that? So kind of similar motion in the overall movement of all the melodies. So here the bass is going down, vocals going down. This is also going down as ending down, right? But then this is moving up, the vocals moving up, and then this is also moving up. Now, I just want to draw your attention to that because it's probably intentional. I'm not saying that you have to do it all the time. In fact, a cool thing to do also would be what's called contrary motion. So, for example, if the bass was going, let's say if the vocal's going down here, you can have the bass go up, right? Or if the vocal starts going up, you can have the bass go down. Another thing you can do is have the bass or the vocal moving up and down as the bass stays flat, called oblique motion. You know, but in this case, I just wanted to point out that most of the instruments are following a similar motion, and that's actually a technical term. I'm not kidding. Like, similar motion is a technical term. But okay, cool. So the fills. We keep forgetting fill. Okay, let's bring Phil over. Okay. Any fills in here? Or over here at least? Okay, you can hear filtering in, but also washing out. Cool. All right, so Phil is not there, but Phil is probably in here. So let's see where Phil is. Okay. So no edit right here, just keeping it rolling. Now, the nice thing about this is that you have like this four bar down phrase, this 4-bar up phrase, and then you're at 8 bars. You know, that's pretty nice. And since this is just fundamentally call response, and that going up here builds tension, just like if you think about like in a build, right? What builds tension? Risers going up. What's happening right here? Vocals going up, basses going up, synths are all going up. That builds tension. And then you resolve that tension going into here. So it allows you to just keep going, you know? And so they're not even preparing. They're not doing anything fancy. They're just moving into another repetition of that vocal. And you totally can, because cool vocal, but also the cyclicality of it, the down, then up, then down, then up, allows it to just keep on going basically forever. Okay, cool. So let's see what else. But look at this anticipation, right? Look at what's coming up. What's that? That's an edit. What does an edit do? An edit prepares the listener for a change. So even just visually looking at this, something's going to happen here, right? Otherwise, what's that doing? Look at this though. That's dramatic. We can even just start drawing that. What the heck is that? Something's going to happen here. You see that? Like even visually, when you start to see this thing, you know what the changes are going to be. All right. And so, and as a producer, we can know this like consciously, but as a listener, they don't know this, but they can feel it. Right. And they've listened to so much music that they need this stuff to then like move into the next section. Otherwise, it's just not going to feel right to them. All right. So let's see what happens though. One thing I'm noticing here is a very minor point, but this music is once again creeping up. You can hear right here, like right here, you can hear it. It's very faint, but down the middle. But if I play right here, you're not going to hear it as much. All right? And so once again, this is just creeping up. So gain up. All right. And so it just starts to become audible over here, you know. But this is cool because all of this stuff is relatively static. There's some movement going on the bass line, like some automation a little bit, maybe. And then, but here though, is this slow evolving sound, right? So it's not just static. We got things moving around, so. All right, I promise. One last thing here, and then we're going to move on. I was saying that there's no edit right here, right? But one thing that is happening here is this weird rhythm in the stabs. It's an unstable rhythm. So even though there's not this kind of like edit, there's this almost like fill in this stab that creates this trip up kind of feeling. And then when you fall back into 89, you get the stability again. All right. But let me point out why this is intentional. Again, remember at the beginning of the video, I was talking about intention. Right here, we're getting the stab on the 1, basically, like on at least a beat. 1, right? That's it. There's nothing tricky about that rhythm. All right. But here, listen to how the rhythm is trippy, right? It like trips over itself. Right? That's unstable. Even that small little thing creates tension to move into the next thing because it's an unstable rhythm. And they're like, whoa, and then boom, we land back into stability. All right? So these are the little things that you can do in your tracks that help things move forward. You don't have a lot. You just have a vocal, you got a bass line, you've got a stab, a tiny little piano that plays every once in a while. But these little things are strategic and they're intentional and they work. They satisfy what we want emotionally, psychologically, you know. And so thinking about things a little bit in that way can help. Now, a lot of producers like Gorgon City, like John Summit, they're obviously masters of their crafts. If they're thinking, doing this stuff consciously, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, but at the same time though, they're probably just feeling it. They probably just feel like this needs to happen, you know. But it also helps to just kind of have the higher level understanding of what's going on and what you can do, so that you can make your music feel that way too, you know. All right, let's go. Best friends again. The lasers show back up. Okay. Okay, so no kick. There's that little kick right there, which is just cool, right? Little tiny hint of a snare roll that I'm hearing again, all tops again. If I'm tripping, let me see. I don't know. There's some kind of effect in there. It might not be snares. It could be just white noise, but... All right, but we've got a clap bomb again, so let's drop this guy over here. Cool. But notice there's no stab right there, so... All right, cool. And now we're getting into what you can consider a B section. So we'll go ahead and cut this down. We'll go A equals main vocal. There you go. Because the A section you can define in one word or phrase. And that I highly recommend doing that in your tracks. What is the one thing that defines this section? So hook drop 1B is going to be the ARP here that just came in. All right. So, and this ARP thing is a big deal because it's going to play a very important role later on in terms of paying off the entire song. So let's go ahead and bring this guy in. Oh man, should have colored it first. All right. Oh well, there we go. Cool, we got the ARP. But you can hear, we don't need to work out the ARP. You can hear that it's simply following what the music is doing, what the chords are doing. It's going, if I bring over the chords here, you can see that it will just basically go up with the chords and then down with the chords. And then it goes high with the E minor. See, so it's just following what they're doing, right? You could just throw an ARP on there, get a cool sound, and you're good to go. All right, so we got to bring over the beats. We got to bring over the bass. I'm just going to take off the description there. Let's get this over here. Let's see if Phil here kind of calms down right there. I think so. Why not? Cool. So that vocal goes away. Now we got that high melody that was introduced back here coming back in. Right, that one. And we got this guy too. Look at that. Man. All right, sweet. So there we go. One thing I want to point out, which is very cool, is that notice this. Notice how the bass and the chords aren't perfectly lined up on the D note, okay? Listen to the tension this creates underneath. It's really cool. See how the bass stays flat here and then moves up to the D? Watch this. Listen to how the D goes up in the chords, but the bass stays flat, okay? And then they both fall down together. That's really cool, okay? Like that's pretty sophisticated. Even how simple it is. But a lot of the most sophisticated things are very simple. Like even this small little stab thingy right here, very simple, but sophisticated. If someone did that and like someone that I work with, I'd be like, dude, that was a good move. You know, that was a good move. Same with this. Like, very cool, you know, if you could pick up on it, which now you can. All right, so I want to show you that. So if I play these two together, the ones that we made, so, and then let me go get, why did I delete it? Why? If I go get a little beat for us again here, so. Hear that though? Like maybe I'll open up the cutoff a little bit more on this guy. So let's unfreeze it. And let's see. Let's go like this. So check this out. Hear that? Hear that little extension in the B underneath the D, and then it jumps up to the D. We get that feeling of lifting, and then boom, we fall and resolve into that. It's really cool. That's why I'm paying attention to this. Right? That stuff is killer. That stuff is awesome. Okay, so let's turn this guy off. And one last thing I want to mention on that, since we're going down a little music theory stuff, is I mentioned before similar motion and oblique motion and contrary motion. All right, so similar motion is, for example, when we have this D go down here to the G, same thing right here. This D goes down to the G. So that's similar motion right there. But right here, you have the B minor go up to the D, but the B stays flat in the bass. This is an example of oblique motion, where you have one thing changing, but then you have in this case, all these voices, you can say, these three voices are changing up, but this one voice here is staying flat. And so here they're playing the same thing, but then this guy stays flat as this moves up. That's oblique motion, when one thing stays the same and something else changes. And same with right here. This is also oblique motion. So right here, the bass now goes up, but the chord stays the same. So from here to here, the chord stays the same, but from here to here, the bass goes up. So this is also oblique motion. But then here, when it goes down from D down to G, this goes down from a D chord to a G chord. This is similar motion. All right. We don't really have any examples of contrary motion, but you can imagine what it would be. So for example, if this guy went up instead of going down, then it would be an example of contrary motion. But I wanted to show you that. One, I want to just show you how cool that feels that they're holding this out. And then second, I wanted to just break that down in terms of something that we talked about or mentioned earlier. All right, let's keep it rolling. Let's go. Oh, it'd be nice if we can hear it. There we go. Okay, there's this kind of cool little jangle thing I'm just going to add in there. Jangle. Jingle. So it just kind of comes up there at the end. A little bit of like something that kind of signifies the end of the 8 bars. But then, of course, we're just going to fall right back into it. So ARP definitely is opening up. It's definitely opening, right? You can hear back here. A little bit, the filter's down, but here the ARP is, blossoming. It's becoming very confident in the mix. He's feeling good. Or she, who knows? Ooh, another little jangle thing. Cool. Is there one playing over here? Ooh, big edit. And we're definitely getting a snare roll here. You can hear that. All tops. All tops. So we're mostly getting a kick cut. And we're also high passing up. More lasers. It was a lot of lasers in Is Everyone Having Fun? This is definitely a Gorgon City thing. Lots of lasers. All right. Very cool. Now, this is one of the strangest things about this track to me, is going back into the vocal here. Like, this is a very strange structure, but it's cool. Like, it works. So who cares? But if you think about it, it's like A section vocal, B section sound design, and then usually you'd go into some kind of break, but they're just giving you the vocal again. Okay, I'll take it. All right, so we're kind of going back to hook drop 1A in a way. I'll do a little bit of an asterisk because we're definitely going to be moving or working toward the break. Just like we talked about over here, how Gorgon City is using the break atmosphere chords as a way to transition out of the bass drop into the break. The same thing is probably going to happen right there. All right. again, one of my favorite moves. But let's check it. All right, we got the big clap bomb right there. Phil's kind of chilling out. All right, let's, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to copy A over because that's basically what's happening, right? Okay, let's just make sure we got what we need. So we got the beats. We got the bass. We've got probably the fill. We've got the vocal. We got the stabs. Yeah, we got the stabs. We got the piano. You can hear it. I'm trying to listen for the music. I don't quite hear it. Oh, I just gave it away. But I already told you earlier the chords were coming back in, but here we go. So this is going to be main Vox plus transition to break. Just want to make sure you really understand that. All right, cool, and there you go. We got the chords. And again, they're using just the chords to transition us and move us into the breakdown. All right. Okay, so these are definitely LP up, low passing up. Okay, and now we're doing the edit thing again where they're kind of high passing up. So HP up there. You can hear a snare roll. So we'll just go like this. So we'll also do like a kick cut right here. And we got the lasers again. And the clap bomb. All right, cool. All right, very nice, very nice. So then let's go into the main break and build. So up top, we're just going to create, I think it's like 24 bars. Yeah, look at that. And no vocal. Kind of a cool little break. So main break down. Cool. Actually, main break and build is what I really call it. MBB, B-U-I-L-D. So I got to zoom in on this so I can just color it. There we go. All right. So a little kick there. I'll ignore that, but, you know, a little kick to accent the moment. And then we're getting all those vocals from before. Do you see how things are just moving back and forth? You've got these little vocal textures. Look at this, right? So vocal textures, and then we're going into the lead vocal here. Lead vocal again now over the drop though, but then passing the baton, switching back over to the vocal textures, passing the baton, going back to the vocals, passing the baton, going back to the vocal textures. You see that? Now there's another thing that's going to happen. And here with the vocal textures, we're also getting the ARP down here, all right? And so we'll see again how that's going to play an important role. So let's go. So we've got the music stuff here, right there. The boom dum, the kind of musical Atmos stuff. Can you guess what's going to happen right here? And I'll tell you, it's not the vocal. It's not the vocal. All right. Vocal happens over here, which is really cool. What happens here? What other big element could come in right here? All right. So you could think of like, so once we're coming out of the drop, what can you do in a main break and build? Right. High level, there's two things, right? You give them a break. So you just kind of break things down. No drums, no bass really, or at least high pass it. give them one of the main things of the track just to occupy their attention. And then the next thing is you start building tension back towards the drop. So high level, just give a break section where you're just, the drums aren't quite there, or the drums aren't fully there. And then here, you start building tension, snare rolls, rep roll, rise, grow, right? And so chunking it down a little bit more, like right here, this first 8 bars is the proper kind of break section, right? This is the break. The little bit of the rhythmic element, we've got these vocal textures and atmosphere, and we've got these chords. So we're giving them a break, right? They're not really dancing right here. They're just vibing. They're in the moment. But then something's got to happen, right? And so here, very standard is like where you introduce the main thing, you showcase it. Sometimes I'll call this the showcase. So the second 8 bars, after you've kind of bridged them or given them that break, you've kind of bridged them down over to here. And then this is an opportunity to let something shine, right? Whether it's a vocal or some other main element. And in this case, they're not using the vocal, but what else could they use? Remember, they keep on passing things back and forth, right? And so what else could they use? Right, if they're not using the vocal, of course, it's the ARP. So let's check it out. There you go. You got your little ARP right there. Okay. Now another cool thing is that the ARP comes in, we're also getting a little bit of a sub down at the bottom. So let's go put a sub right there. And the sub, of course, is just going to be following what the chords are doing. But if they're doing anything interesting, let's just point it out, you know, because the thing about making this kind of music, and the reason I'm going into a lot of music theory, is you got to know some of it, right? It's going to make it a lot easier to know some music theory to pull this stuff off, right? Writing melodies, right? And then putting chords under those melodies, that's really what music theory is all about, you know? That's just called harmonization. And so it helps to know it. But let's see if anything interesting happens with this sub. And of course, we can just come over here. So this is going right away up, just like the chords. The bass, remember, was holding on to the B a little bit longer before it jumped up to the D. So... and then they're just going down, so they really are following them, okay? So, and then they're just stepping right up to the E. So literally following exactly what the chords are doing. So let's just map that out. So we have B right here. Cool, so bam. So then D and then G. Down here, and then we have B, D, G, but we're going up to E. So there we go, right there. And cool. And that's, you know, let's go get operator. So there we are. Cool. And then if you look, let's go get spectrum. So, and that's in the wrong octave, so let's go get pitch. So MIDI effects, so we'll go down. There you go. That's all I need, right? Maybe a little tiny release, although it's all legato anyway, so it doesn't matter. Cool. There you go. So sub, done. All right. Now, this vocal is a little bit different than what we've heard before. Let me just see something. So it's a little bit more of that vocal, right? Because this vocal doesn't have the kind of consonant. It just only has the vowel, the or the hum, right? But here we're getting a little bit of the T kind of. And then here we're getting the T as well. All right, so maybe I'll just color these guys slightly differently over here. This one, let's see, let's do like that color. All right, I'll just go like this. Cool. There you go. Just so you know, they're slightly different. All right, got a little snare roll. Again, mostly tops, right? There's not some big body to the snare. Cool. So this is going to be beats, okay? This is going to be like low pass up with HP. First, only hear fist. No. First, only hear kick, right? You hear that? Just the knock of the kick. Okay, so let's get the chords out here. We'll just get everything over. We got the ARP. We got the vocal textures. We got the sub maybe. Let's see. Yep, sub is still there. Beats. Snare roll. Oh, hold up. Oh, so this is actually playing double time. It's kind of going like this. So, ha, 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 ha. Cool, there you go. Lasers, cool. And again, like we're gonna work down to that payoff, to the, or it's not necessarily, but we're gonna work down to the what am I trying to say, pickup melody. Definitely some kind of, I'll do like an up effect here. You can hear a reverse reverb. I probably missed this before, but reverse Vox reverb. There's definitely, and plus white noise. You can hear the all right, let's get the pickup melody again. Let's get these guys, and then we'll just put the pickup right here. Cool. Da-da-da. Okay, so pick up. And let's just actually get a hook drop A here. Move these over like that. Cool. And so, hook drop 1. So this is going to be hook drop 2. Why? Because we're putting the hooks over the groove. It's a drop with the hooks, right? That's what people really want. That's what they care about. Okay. Now this is where it all comes together, right? Where the equation adds up. The math adds up. Because here, check this out. Here, we introduced the groove, right? Just the groove. Here is where the vocal is introduced. Now, is the groove and the vocal playing together right there? No. All right. If I go over here, is the groove and the vocal playing together right there? No. So are they playing separately? Yes. What about right here? Are they playing together? Yes, they're playing together. Because that's what this is all adding up to. This little mini setup right here is setting up to this moment where you're putting the hooks over the groove. Okay, now check this out. Okay, is the vocal playing right here? Yes, it is. Right? Is the ARP playing right here? Yes, it is. Is the main vocal playing with the ARP? No, it's not. What about right here? Is the vocal playing? Yes, it is. Is the ARP playing? No. Okay. What about over here? Is the ARP playing? Yes, it is. Is the vocal playing with the ARP? No, it's not. So just like how the groove and the main vocal were introduced separately and came together, that's what this whole tension is all about, to bring those two together. This whole rest of the time, the main vocal and the ARP were not playing together. And so guess what happens on the last drop? Would you believe it? It's the ARP and the main vocal. Everything adds up. Everything always adds up. And there it is. Okay, let's get those jangles from earlier too, which are probably just effects on the ARP. Maybe. You know, it could be some kind of like grain delay, could be some kind of, you know, what the hell is that plugin? Crystallizer type of stuff. That might be the weirdest thing I've ever heard in a song. What is that? You hear this little whistle? Let me just see if I'm hearing this correctly. I literally thought it was my dog, but... You hear that? What? Okay, cool. Probably wouldn't have put that in. But to each their own. Okay, let's see. Okay, we definitely need to stay on top of this, so we need to get the clap bomb over here. All right. It's also playing over here, too. No. All right, so here we go. We got a big edit right here. So let's see what happens in the next 16 bars. Probably moving to the outro, but let's see. So we'll go like... Okay, snare roll as well right there. So cool. So kind of everything that we've heard before. Lasers. All right. Cool. So let's get the bass over. Okay, we got the, let's see. Okay, we got the ARP here playing, but we don't have the main vocal. Do we have like the stabs and stuff? No stabs. Piano? Let's see. Wait a minute, is there a piano in there? Yeah, the piano's still going. Okay, cool. Okay, jangle, jangle. You hear a snare roll right here, coming up. Is there anything changing in the low end? No, low end's going full blast right there. You can hear a little bit of washout on the drums here, like Endless Smile type of stuff. So no more piano, no more ARP. Let's see. And then another edit right here. No kick. Another snare roll. Wow, lots of, look at all these transitions back to back. Interesting. Definitely the main kind of like background atmospheric thing. Now they have switched over to the intro. Yep, you can literally hear that shift. So, right, whoops, yeah, you can hear them saying the T part, T. But here, no more T, just Hear that? Cool. A little bit of a white noise downshifter through here, so just kind of like a white noise kind of mid. A nice little jangled delay right there. Okay, cool. I was curious to see what they were going to do in the outro, and it seems like the bass is going to keep going. Like in the intro, it was flat, and it would just jump up to the D at the end of, I think, 4 bars. But here it's continuing to play the progression. So we got the clap bomb. Let's bring that over. We got lasers again. Can't forget those. A piano? What the heck? Okay, let's just bring the piano back. Because it was definitely not here. Oh, maybe it is. Hold up. I think it is there. Just barely. You can hear the top of it. So now the bass is going flat. So did I color this different? So this is different. Let's color this a different color here. And then same thing back over here at the end. So now we're switching, making it easy for DJs to mix into it. And themselves, of course, because they're DJs, which they probably care most about. Okay, we got the nice musical texture going on. Cool, which continues after the drop, actually, or after the end of the song. And then, wait a minute. Nice. Okay, so that's actually like a vocal and a piano, but I'll put them in as the pianos. Phil's, we forgot Phil again. Can't forget Phil. Bring Phil over. Wait a minute. Okay, that's a full Phil. All right. So this is no kick again. Except for that guy. Okay, we got a bunch of lasers and a long delay on that. We'll bring this guy over. Delay. And then same with right here. Okay, very cool. So probably the biggest, so like I said, HT2 formula, right? So here, let's just finish up the formula. So we got the A section, and then really it just moves into kind of like a kind of slow evolution to the outro. And so I guess what you do is we can just kind of definitively say, like, this is a hook, drop, 2, B here because it's got just the ARP. This is going to be main Vox plus ARP, which is the whole point. So maybe I'll color this like yellow because that's cool. And then, and it's just stands out. And then this is all just going to be outro because it just kind of works down with all the textures and stuff. But this, at least we still have a main hook there with the ARP. And then this is all just texture and breaking things down. Okay. So you can see, even in the simple song, we got some cool things going on. A high level. What do we got going? HG2 formula. So we got intro, bass drop, break 1, hook drop 1, main break and build, hook drop 2. So again, just principled arrangement, proven structure. You can't go wrong. This is the simplest way to present an idea. Chunking down from there, probably the best takeaway is just seeing how things add up in this song. So here we got introduced, and this is typical right here, where you have the full groove, and then that goes away, and then we introduce the main hook, and then the full groove and the main hook come together in the first drop. That's why I call it the hook drop, because you're putting the hooks over the groove. And then another cool thing was seeing like how the main vocal plays here, and then the ARP plays here, but throughout the rest of the track, the ARP and the main vocal are playing separately. They're never playing together. And what that sets up is them finally coming together, the circle of life, right? No, but they come together, the punchline, the biggest punchline, right? You're getting the 1, 2, 3 punch. The 1, 2 is the groove in the main vocal. You're getting that back over here. But the 1, 2 plus 3 punch is the groove, the main vocal, and the ARP coming together. The 1, 2, 3 punch in this track. And the key is like seeing the high level math of that, right? And really understanding that. And just because that's fundamentally what creates tension. Like like these things like snare rolls, risers, reverb, all that stuff creates tension, sure. But what's it creating tension for? Right? And it's that underlying tension of people wanting these sounds that are introduced to come together. All right, so once again, the groove and the main hook, those two come together here. Now we're getting the main vocal, the ARP, but those don't play together at all until everything comes together here, right? And that's where the math adds up. Okay. And then another interesting thing that I've found that I kind of am curious about are this section where the vocal comes back. That's very unique. I've never heard that before, actually. I've never heard an A, B, almost A section, right? So that was interesting to me. Also, this 24-bar build is very subdued. Like, there's not a lot of tension building. You're not hitting them, spotlighting the main hook. The ARP is coming in there, but that's not really the main hook. That's more of like a secondary hook to the track. But just really just vibing things out, which is cool. It makes sense for this track. And then another thing I want to point out is the pickup melody going into the drops. Like, it's just such a great way. Like, if you find a vocal that has a pickup melody, like, instantly think, like, that's the payoff that's pulling people into the drop. It's just so effective. And even in the other track, Is Everybody Having Fun? So good. I love that. And then probably the last thing to talk about is just the music theory that we went over, where we were talking about just the chords and like how to build chords. If you find that, if you're trying to like recreate or make this music, having an understanding of being able to figure out the melody, seeing what the underlying notes of the chords are, and then from those notes being able to figure out what chords are being played, like that's all that I used here, right? It's nothing crazy. And so just if you kind of follow along, like at some point I didn't know how to do that, but then I just started doing it. And, you know, as you do it, like kind of the way I'm doing this video, it'll just come to you. You'll just be able to figure it out. And making this music will be a lot easier. And so that was a takeaway. And I think that's really it. If there's one more thing that I want to say, I guess it's just like what the elephant in the room is, just like the sound selection. How everything just contributes to the vibe. Like we're diving in, we're looking at structure, we're looking at sound design, we're looking at these music theory concepts. But if we just zoom all the way back to the gestalt, you can stay, to the overall picture, the overall feeling as everything adds up together. Like, that's just sound selection and just creating vibes. So even though you got to know, it's good to know the technical side of things and the structural side of things, which is primarily what we break down. At the end of the day, just remember that when you're picking things, when you're creating inside a structure, you have to make things and pick sounds and create vibes that you just connect with, that you just really like. There's both sides of that equation. There's the creative side and the technical side. And we're covering a lot of the technical side, but I just don't want to make it seem like the technical side, the vibe side, the emotion side is any less important. In fact, it's the most important, because all the technical stuff that we go over is in the service of creating that emotion, creating that vibe. And so don't forget about that, you know? And the reason why I want to say it in context of this track is because this track is just pure vibes. You just get lost in it. It's just pure emotion. But what we're breaking down is we're breaking down the technical things behind the scenes to see how that kind of emerges, you know? And so hopefully that is clear too. And I really just wanted to hammer that last point. But if you got your own insights about this track, leave them down in the comments. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I personally love this track. And if you have any more suggestions for tracks to break down, let me know. And I'll see you in the breakdown or in the next breakdown. Peace.